Let me be the first of many anime profile pictures to tell you that you're wrong, Hbomberguy. Because Death Note's Netflix movie, manga, even the fan-subbed fourth Japanese live-action movie pales in comparison to an iteration you haplessly ignored. Hi, my name is Thompson, and I'm going to tell you about the best Death Note adaptation no one knows about. Hopefully, Hbomberguy, you did not talk about this in your video, since I made this in order to be uploaded at the same time, under the hope that you don't mention it. Gotta wrangle that algorithm.
Death Note isn't just an incredibly successful manga published by Shonen Jump. The series has been adapted into many different forms of media and interpretations, with of course an anime, but also Korean TV dramas, and a film made by Netflix that was beaten to death so hard that they packaged it, sold it at your local Costco, and then you bought it, and you did equations in your right hand, wrote names in your left, and you took the Death Note Netflix film and ate it.
However, there's another American adaptation which predates even the one on Netflix. You probably don't remember it because this same angry mob that murdered after the Netflix one was released choked it while it was still in the cradle, before it could even speak. Or should I say, sing.
Frank Wildhorn was the man behind the Whitney Houston song Where Do Broken Hearts Go and various musical renditions of properties in the public domain. When Wildhorn was at a party, some Japanese people passed him a mysterious envelope. On the plane back home, he opened up the envelope and saw two words: death and note. His interest was piqued by the modern edginess and gothic facets of the images also included in the envelope. It seemed like something, as the creator of Dracula the musical, that would be right up his alley. So when he told his son that he got offered to do a musical version of Death Note, his son said,
"Whoa, Dad, that's the coolest thing you've ever done."
With his forte in Broadway musicals and his newfound bond between his son, Wildhorn decided to push forward with the Death Note musical, a musical that would have the potential to be the first great American adaptation of an anime.
It was then canceled.
After reading this prejudgmental article on Daily Dot titled "The Death Note Musical Promises to be a Veritable Train Wreck," I don't see any reason to ask why this happened, as the news cycle drummed up outrage over the announcement.
The damage had already been done. The headline had already been written, and
the musical would have to be translated for an audience in Japan and Korea, because they are open to enjoyment, and it found massive success.
However, a concept album with a proposed cast in New York surfaced on the deepest and darkest places on the internet, on YouTube.
Ever since I discovered this musical in high school, which at the time there were only a handful of songs available, this instantly became a favorite of mine that I listened to for the many years it's been around.
It's time to take you back to the past to remember it so you don't have to.
Let me set the stage for you. It's a classroom. A man is teaching to a group of attentive students who are actively writing notes. However, there's one boy, slumped in the back, looking out the window.
His name is Light Yagami, and he's mad at the world. He's festering on injustices. He's angry at the predicaments that society leaves others in. What's he gonna do about it? He's gonna sing about it in the middle of class.
Show me what's right about the wrongs that we allow.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Out of the gate, you've got this eloquent characterization, making fertile ground for Light Yagami to become Kira. He expresses frustration with politicians, with capitalism, with the overall society he lives in. It also introduces the inherent charisma that Light Yagami has, practically turning this entire class on their instructor, whose only retort to Light's claims are,
Society's a lot more complicated than that, dude.
Musically, you got this jamming rock hook, clever rhymes with the lyrics crescendoing into the classroom ensemble, singing with an energy that pulls the audience in with the theatrics. One of the most enjoyable factors of Death Note is the conversation it invokes, a conversation about the ethics of taking away life for perceived justice and not allowing unchecked power from a singular individual. Frank was aware of this, as is evident by making this the focal point of his musical from the very beginning. The next song is They're Only Human, which is one of the Ryuk songs that are in this musical. Each of the characters have different styles of music, and Ryuk has a bombastical, a word I just made up, circus theme that's present.
Ryuk is done interestingly in the musical. He comes across as more manipulative, and there's more groundwork being laid for being an allegory for mindsets of human superiority. He uses Light Yagami's hate-filled, malleable mind as a playground that leads him very gently into a more disturbed mindset. So basically, he is the alt-right, just gently dropping down Sargon of Akkad's videos into the YouTube recommendations of the youth.
The next song, Hurricane, is adapting the pivotal moment in the story of Death Note, in which Light Yagami is shocked from seeing a television broadcast about the name he wrote down in a simple little black notebook, seeing that he has suffered a heart attack just as the book foretold. In this emotionally tenacious piece of music, Light Yagami wrestles with an elitist personality that manifests within him, an ego that constructs a subconscious inquisition under a god complex that eventually consumes him, his family, and even the world. Structurally, the individual verses in the song gradually reveal how Light's mindset becomes warped and clouded into thinking it's okay to kill people if they're bad.
Which is like a pathway to genocide. You know, the thing Hitler did.
I find this song a more effective sympathetic narrative for Light Yagami than in the anime or Netflix film. It's depressing to think how society can fail someone like him, an otherwise successful and well-achieved high schooler who nobly laments the lack of justice in the world, becoming a vengeful deity among any semblance of power. Light Yagami's characterization and what it's trying to say is at its best when it seems as if his actions are a product of the greater society around him. I appreciated how Hbomberguy made the point in his Death Note video that's not out yet, that Light in the Netflix movie is a coherent iteration of the character for America because of how he's ingrained in the incel pandemic, a change which I also agree was a smart, culturally cognizant choice. Another representation of one of the story beats made better with the musical is with Misa Amane, a pop star who hides secret messages in her songs to gain the attention of Kira, who has already become notorious for his murders. Misa Amane is the individual whose Shinigami is Rem, and has sacrificed half her lifespan in order to have the eyes of the Shinigami so she can see exactly how long someone will live and their real name.
It's an 80s pop song tribute that again characterizes and brings purpose to the musical aspects of Death Note. Can you dig it? I can dig it.
Overall, Misa, both as a love interest for Light and a character, is another improvement from other iterations because her handful of songs explore her decisions in the story. She's less obnoxious than she is in the anime, and especially more thought out than her interpretation in the Netflix film. So this is one of the more drastic enhancements that the musical has. Her first song in the context of the musical comes at a point in which Light Yagami takes his little sister Sayu to a Misa concert. He's of course surprised by this random tribute to him that's in her set, and later he asks Sayu what she thought. Sayu didn't like it because of the Kira tribute.
Sayu then says that if she could say any one thing to Kira, that she would tell him to stop hurting other people and be more like her older brother Light. Breaks into this tender song that's about how noble Light Yagami, who's actually Kira, is, and how she looks up to him endlessly.
This part of the musical is one of my favorites, since it realizes the potential of what musical adaptations can be, by more coherently portraying the emotions that a character feels thanks to the enhancement of what music brings. Of course, it does help that Wildhorn's strong writing did the heavy lifting, but the combination of the talent singer Laura Osnes brings and the emotional pathos of the storytelling here are what makes it an effective inclusion.
We haven't even gotten to L. Ah!
L is an integral part to the story in the Death Note manga and anime, providing a dynamic of cat and mouse that makes the story a suddenly captivating crime drama on top of the philosophical moral queries it presents. In the musical, he provides the same draw and remains a strong part of the story. The only thing I have found a little weird is how they changed how wacky he is by making him reference coding and pixels all the time.
A kilobyte of information.
However, another identity from the source material that plays into the crime drama aspect of Death Note is Light's father, who is the head of the organization that is searching for Kira.
This song consists of a conversation between Light and his father, Soichiro, about the morals of Kira, unbeknownst, of course, to Soichiro. that his own son Light is Kira.
This extends the conversation that I mentioned about the ethics of killing criminals and whether the world is actually a better place by bringing more death into it. You don't kill someone as a substitute. He's more of a vessel to portray the way that people claim to look at the world in black and white, and he presents himself as someone with strong and rigorous morals. Yet, the ambition with Soichiro as a character is found within his other song, as he tragically contrasts this, monologuing on his struggles upon finally realizing that his son could be Kira. This parental guilt is palpable, and is another example of how the characters in this story are seemingly fleshed out at their best within this musical interpretation. His flaws to not be able to enforce his ethical fibers due to his son's possible guilt makes him a more interesting character, since he falls into the same contradiction that many of us do as humans, as we say we have a professed code of morals that is only going to end up crushing us in the face of commitment. The two pieces of music juxtaposed provides a setup and a payoff for Soichiro, and is something that the musical frames majestically.
Could it be possibly I'll catch him when I look through his eyes and see what he sees?
Remember when I said that the crime drama dynamic is one of the strongest facets of this story?
This was the first song I heard from the musical, and it instantly sold me on the concept of Death Note being a musical. It doesn't get better than this, not just in the musical, in life.
The dynamic of Light and L is realized in full duet potential at this point. It's a climactic moment that feels special, since it comes much later in the story than one might expect. What makes this effective is the realization from Wildhorn to introduce the characters and flesh them out meticulously, making the eventual clash between the two, leading to an energizing third act that has them at the focal point. Really, while this song stands up on its own because that's just how good it is, it's emblematic to how surprisingly effective the pacing in Death Note the musical is.
It has no right being as good as it is.
The one character I've not talked about much is Rem. She's not particularly focused on in the anime or manga, and while she has a parental relationship with Misa, it isn't as well defined as the more twisted one between Light and Ryuk. However, Frank Wildhorn, the brilliant madman, decided to provide Rem with more agency in the musical. From her character's introduction, she jokes about how mortals feel this bizarre and silly thing called love. Progressively though, through the musical, she finds a love, as she falls in love with Misa, thinking that love was something she couldn't feel because she was a monster, a Shinigami, a god of death, and then feeling the pain that comes with not being able to commit to that love. This is fleshing out layers that draw parallels to the one-sided and unreciprocated relationship that Misa finds herself a victim of with Light, and provides a distinction to the enthusiastic manipulation that Light finds himself in with Ryuk. Wildhorn has done something very, very special here.
In literature, we would call someone like Rem a foil, but rather than just simply being a contrast of the protagonist, Rem uniquely in this iteration ends up being a thought-provoking deviation to the entire story's soul. The song you've been listening to, When Love Comes, ends up being a tender payoff to what is probably the only character who has an honest and wholesome purpose, contradicting the self-centered behaviors of almost every single character, strengthening the heart of the overall story by allowing viewers to realize that these people suck.
So, how does it end? Well, in the song The Way It Ends, after having his name written in the Death Note, L realizes that he's being controlled to his eventual death. He has a duet with Light and everything is revealed. The despair, the intention, the plans that were all along being laid out. After this, Ryuk, out of boredom, writes Light's name in the Death Note, bringing an end to the story in a way that is slightly more satisfying than the anime, which drones on for quite a while after L dies. Also, in the stage version, the Japanese actor for Light deserves a Tony Award for this scene alone. If you tried any harder, you'd probably will yourself to death.
As an ethereal chorus leads L and Light into anime hell, which is also known as just anime, This brings a close to what is my favorite version of Death Note. But with its remaining existence, it proves that sometimes creative adaptations are made primarily to be labors of love, to introduce a new audience to something that they may have not have checked out in the first place.
Despite having never been fully realized in the States, the canceled Death Note musical can be perceived as one of the most focused iterations of the story, since it distills exposition containing character development into music and brings purpose to places that weren't there originally. It's a tragedy it wasn't made, since it was so unsuspectingly created with pounds of passion and polish by a professional fluent in his craft.
Not everyone is going to read a comic despite how great they're told the story is. If it's something that it's not a medium that they won't consume, then they aren't going to check it out. So if there's a version of it that's more accessible to them, and they enjoy it, and they can appreciate the various ideas and thematics that the story introduces, it's not like the original manga or anime versions are suddenly going to disappear. So rather than jumping in with venomous outrage whenever one of your favorite intellectual properties are adapted into something new, maybe... What the heck? What is that? Did you guys hear that? No way. What the heck? So it says on the first page that whichever intellectual property is written in this book, a musical adaptation will be made of it. So, I mean, obviously I don't have to write down my favorite intellectual property, Evil Dead, but I mean, Godzilla vs. Destroyer would make it... Oh gosh. Oh no, something's already been written in here. Oh no. Oh God, no. It's very good pizza. Anyway, I want to thank everyone who is currently backing me on Patreon. Obviously, check out Hbomberguy's channel. I adore him. He is one of my favorite content creators that are on this website. So whenever he decides to upload, or if he has already uploaded his Death Note video, go watch that. But you probably already watched that, and hopefully if my plan worked out, you're here now. So be sure to check out my... Oh, there's a Captain Marvel video. If you like this one, be sure to check that out. It's more into, what is it? Immigrants? This is really good pizza, actually. If you like this video, leave the comment. Like, it helps the algorithm. And also subscribe, that also helps. Oh. I forgot. A big shout out to Megan Monse, who is this month's producer. So be sure to check out her Instagram, since she is the one who's basically making sure that these videos happen. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. There's crumbs all over my good Jinji Ito shirt. Nick!